Today we are talking about terroir in beer, and to do it, we have two beers made with Galaxy from two different places. So we all know that terroir is a thing in wine. It affects wine. Wine connoisseurs seek it out, they understand it, they speak of its differences, they speak about different growing regions and how those grapes potentially impact the wine in different ways. Is that a thing in beer? And to me, the answer here at Treehouse is unequivocally yes. We have spent the better part of the last half decade seeking out hops that grow in different regions because we are absolutely enamored by the idea that a Galaxy hop grown on the mainland of Australia in Victoria can taste very, very different, but equally good as a Galaxy hop that's grown across the strait in Tasmania. If you don't know, Tasmania is an island off of the mainland in Australia. There's only two places on Earth where Galaxy hops are grown, in Victoria and Tasmania. So, in very simple terms, terroir is environmental conditions that affect the outcome of an agricultural product in the way that it tastes. So, in wine, for example, a Sauvignon Blanc grape grown in Bordeaux exhibits entirely different characteristics from a Sauvignon Blanc grape grown in Marlborough. And that's a function of its soil pH, its climate, its exposure to sunlight, seasonal temperature swings, and things like that. So wine and terroir are one and the same. For Treehouse, we've been going to great extents to try to share the idea that terroir impacts beer flavor in a way that's as meaningful as, if not more meaningful than it does the outcome of wine. To demonstrate this idea, Treehouse has been brewing a series called Many Ways. And the Many Ways series, basically at a fundamental level, sources hops from individual hop farms in different growing regions. And the reason we started this series was hopefully to share with you guys who are enjoying our beer what the different growing regions can do to these hop varieties. So for today's video, we've chosen to highlight Galaxy. Galaxy is a really pure expression of terroir. In contrast to a hop like Cascade that's grown all around the world, there's really only two expressions of Galaxy that you can have anywhere. And for us, this series demonstrates the differences more so than any on a very fundamental level. Another pair in this series that we had done previously is Citra. Citra is grown in the Pacific Northwest. You can find it grown in Idaho, Oregon, or Washington. And those three growing regions grow Citra that's very, very different, although it's the same cultivar. If you were to have that Citra Many Ways from Idaho and compare it to the one in Oregon or compare it to the one in Washington, they are three very different beers. And they're very different beers only because they use Citra grown in different growing regions. So I'm going to dive into these two Galaxy beers, and in real time, we're going to discuss the differences amongst the two. First up is Galaxy Many Ways Part 2, Victoria. I'll actually pour these beers. You guys made fun of me in the comments for calling things guys. We're going to pour Victoria first, and then alongside it, we are going to pour Tasmania. Man, these are milky, yellow, beautiful beers. These won't be available for too much longer, so if you're close to Treehouse and you want to do this experiment yourself, I would highly recommend you come out this weekend or soon to give them a try because they're not going to be around for too much longer. All right, so the colors to me, from my perspective, look virtually identical. There's a really milky yellow opaque appearance going on. And sometimes, depending on hop oil composition, harvest window, and things like that, you can have a different appearance from different hops grown in different regions in this finished beer. But these two are actually very, very similar in color. We will do Tasmania first. On the nose. Okay. Tasmania's got this kind of earthy citrus thing going. And I should say, one important thing to know about these beers is that the only difference in recipe, process, fermentation, dry hop, management in the cellar, all the way through packaging, these beers are identical in construct. The only difference is that the Galaxy in this one were grown in Tasmania, and the Galaxy in this one were grown in Victoria, I think about 500 miles away from each other. So, Tasmania. Earthy citrus, papaya, classic Galaxy lemon lime. Oh man, really nice. Woo, that's so good. It's got that like super punchy tropical fruit, earthy citrus, passion fruit, lemon, lime, rich hop oil just saturating my palate. Oh, I love that. Wow. Tasmanian Galaxy. Moving on to Victoria. Similar earthy citrus vibe, more of a sweet lemon lime characteristic, more of a sweet citrus, whereas Tasmania was rindy and it had that sharp characteristic. This beer has a softer, rounder, smoother palate to it. Getting a little bit of cedar wood from this. There's a term pencil shavings. It's really, really mild, but it's kind of a woody accent on the outside of this flavor profile. Whoa. Oh, man, I love Galaxy. I love Galaxy. What a beautiful illustration of terroir though, because these hops are grown in Australia exclusively. They're grown at 2 hop farms, one of which is Ross Trevor in Bright, Victoria, and the other of which is Bushy Park Estates, which is on the island of Tasmania. I think they're both maritime climates. They receive different sunlight, they have different irrigation, they have different wind profiles, they have different elevations, they have different environmental conditions that make them slightly different. And speaking to these two right now, the Tasmanian Galaxy is wicked tropical fruit, hop oil, rindy citrus, sharp lemon lime. The mainland Victoria Galaxy is very similar and identifiable as Galaxy, very much so like the Tasmanian Galaxy, but it's a lot rounder and softer. I'm getting sweet pineapple and sweet citrus and, you know, a little bit of cedar wood on the outside, a little bit coarser on the finish. But man, hyper distinct differences between these two beers. And to answer the question if terroir is a thing in beer, if you want to try these two beers side by side and answer that question for yourself, for me, the answer is unequivocally yes. What imparts terroir in beer? To me, the answer is hops. There is terroir in grain also, but it's not as pronounced in the finished beer, especially if you're making a hoppy style beer. Sometimes it can get lost in the background. Then water and brewing conditions are both things that you can control and adjust. And so I don't consider them as important to the outcome of a beer. But terroir is amazing. I hope you guys, when you try these beers, you can appreciate the amount of travel and insight that went into creating them. And hopefully you get as excited as we do about terroir in beer. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.